expert analysis, and exclusive stories, all in one place. Radio Sputnik, telling the untold.
Radio Sputnik.
According to Government Minister Michael Gove, Brits will need to prepare themselves for a bumpy ride, especially in relation to UK businesses and travellers as they get to grips with new EU rules. The Minister confirmed that there would be practical and procedural changes when the Brexit transition period ends on the 31st of December. But are Brits really ready for the changes? Do Brits even know what changes await them on the 1st of January? We spoke to journalist Marcus Stead about the post-Brexit trade agreement and asked if Brits are really ready for Brexit.
First of all, can I just say, what was your reaction to the deal coming through on Christmas Eve?
There is a great deal of room for cautious optimism. This deal is not perfect. The United Kingdom has not got everything it wants. There will be bumps in the road ahead. But Boris Johnson was given a mandate by the electorate a little over a year ago to get Brexit done. And on that, he has delivered. Just think of how far we've come in the last 2 years. We had Prime Minister Theresa May and her Chequers surrender, a withdrawal agreement she negotiated that would have left us with Brexit in name only, leaving the United Kingdom with EU vassal status indefinitely. We had the disgraceful spectacle of a Parliament and the Speaker of the House of Commons doing everything they could to try and frustrate, delay, water down and preferably block Brexit. It felt at the time as though the best we could hope for was membership of EFTA with a Norway-style agreement. What we've got now is something far better. Unlike Norway, the United Kingdom will not have to pay a penny to Brussels for access to the single market. Boris Johnson's team, headed by David Frost, has negotiated the first no-tariffs, no-quotas deal the EU has agreed with any other country. Freedom of movement will end. European Court of Justice jurisdiction will end. We will regain control of our money, our borders and our laws. Those who still don't really accept the result of the 2016 referendum are talking a lot about the Erasmus European Student Exchange Programme, which will no longer be accessible to British students. But the good news is that it's being replaced by a new scheme named after the British Enigma genius Alan Turing, which will give students the chance to attend the best universities, not just in Europe, but anywhere in the world. But of course, inevitably with this deal, the devil is in the detail. It was struck on Christmas Eve. Most people's minds have been on other things in the last few days. We've had 500 pages released already, with another 1,500 still to come. There are likely to be some unpleasant details buried deep in there, put in by sneaky but clever EU lawyers. Since entering what was then the EEC in 1973, the British fishing industry has been utterly decimated as a direct consequence. Fishing rights feel emotionally important in negotiations as a result, but in terms of fishing's economic importance, it really is minuscule. The other area that gives some cause for concern is regulatory alignment. There are level playing field measures which commit both the UK and the EU to maintain common standards on workers' rights, as well as many social and environmental regulations. They don't have to be identical, so the UK does not have to follow EU law, but they do have to be seen to protect fair competition. The UK has also agreed to stick to common principles on how state aid regimes work and to an independent competition agency which will assess them. Now, how independent that agency is really going to be remains to be seen. And that is a step too far for my liking. I'd prefer it if that wasn't the case, but it's something we'll have to live with.
Now, from your point of view, does this trade agreement fulfil the promises made 4 years ago during the initial referendum?
Well, the United Kingdom and the European Union have never been a comfortable fit, going right back to when Prime Minister Edward Heath took us into what was then the EEC in 1973. At that time, and in the referendum of 1975, the British people were told that this was essentially about creating closer trading links. But in reality, this has always been a political project, and the concept of ever closer union in terms of political union has never sat very easily with the United Kingdom. And from the time of the Maastricht Treaty onwards in the early 1990s, it was very clear indeed that this was more about politics than about trade. Principles of sovereignty, parliamentary democracy and accountability were at stake. The European Union is not so much a capitalist institution, it's more corporatist. It is a friend to big multinationals, but it is not on the side of small and medium-sized businesses. An important point that's often overlooked is that big multinational corporations very often support layers of bureaucracy and new regulations because they have the money and the resources to implement them. But they also know full well that small and medium-sized businesses very often will be severely damaged by more regulations and red tape. So for small and medium-sized businesses to thrive, they need flexibility and a much lower level of regulations. So now we are free from the shackles of the EU. We have some big decisions to make as to what sort of a country we want to build. Do we want to go down the route of Singapore with an entrepreneurial, low-regulation economy? Or do we favour a different model along socialist, interventionist lines, which would also have been impossible while we were inside the EU? There's a big debate to be had about that. The size of the task is enormous. There are a significant number of MPs in the House of Commons who are not up to the job. The calibre of elected representative across all parties will need to improve. But that's an important debate to have. Now we have the flexibility we did not have when we were inside the EU.
Radio Sputnik.
Has the general public forgotten about